Good afternoon, and welcome to the Black Excellence Alliance Black Entrepreneur Pioneers Speaker Series. The Black Excellence Alliance is a consortium of Black leaders and organizations focused on the development of the Black diaspora through education, employment, and entrepreneurship. Today, we are honored to have with us Steve Anglin, the founder and CEO of We Solar CSP, based in New Jersey. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Glenn, for inviting me onto your podcast. And looking forward to this discussion around, renewable energy, different types of alternate types of renewable clean tech, and the impact it has in the Black community and other disadvantaged communities in America and around the world.
That's a good segue, Steve. Let me ask you, what inspired you to enter into this new industry?
So the inspiration, I think, is from several things, right? So I wasn't born in America, right? I was born and raised in England, came here as a teenager, really had to figure out American culture and learn really quickly to be successful in school and in college. I kind of worked my way through school. And I think that gave me an entrepreneurial flavor right there. And I think I was always a British citizen, right? Until Barack Obama ran for president in 2008. And I think when I saw that and that he could be president, it really did inspire me. You know, that was a big inspiration for me to become an entrepreneur and kind of fell into this space. But it's been actually a wonderful experience.
Outstanding. How did you come up with the name of your company, We Solar CSP?
Good question. It's actually really simple. We kind of sat in a library around the table and played the name game. Back then, there wasn't that many solar companies out. There was a lot, but it wasn't as many as there are today. So we came up with a name and there were a couple, we whittled it down to We Solar. Because it's easy to remember, and also it has a little bit of a takeoff of WeChat. Which is a big platform. Tencent owns it, and they're a very big company in China. I think the We Solar logo also was developed by a friend who does manga art, and she designed it. So there is a little bit of a universal theme to the logo that gives it, it's a universal symbol of the sun. So that's the name. And we added CSP to it because we do thermal heat as opposed to solar panels, right? And thermal, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, is what we use today to create electricity. So we burn fossil fuels, right? We burn oil, gas, and coal today in America to create most of our electricity, believe it or not. Obviously, renewables, wind, solar, hydro, and some of biogas and other things are starting to make a little bit of a progress. But primarily, it's mostly we're burning fossil fuels. And the idea is to reduce that because there is an impact to the climate. The industrial age has been going on for 100 years now. And we can start to see the impact that it's having on the climate. It sounds kind of cliche, but there's definite problems that are going to be caused, especially in the warmer parts of the world, from the climate heating up, from burning the particulate matter, the hydrocarbons that we're putting into the atmosphere. And people talk about it. So some people agree, some people disagree, but you can't argue with science. And for the last 20 years, we've had satellites going around the Earth. So what we're looking at is real, right? It's not something made up, it's not a political thing. It's actually real. We can see the polar caps melting. We can see the ozone getting thinner, and the flood levels and the really bad storms that we're getting nowadays. It's all a part, they're all connected. So long answer to your question as to what inspired me to do this. I think I would even go back and say Barack Obama, to be honest with you, to be an entrepreneur when you see someone like that, we talk about, Black excellence, right? So it doesn't get any better than that for me, at least.
That's outstanding. We know that as you indicated, that climate change is real. And we also know that historically, populations that are most marginalized tend to be impacted the worst, often first, when these global episodes occur. So in essence, We Solar CSP is actually taking on this conflict of man's footprint in terms of energy and disposal of waste in new ways. At least that's part of my interpretation. Correct me if I'm off regarding that, but it seems that it's a solution amongst solutions to addressing our rate of increase, the melting of the ice caps and various other things that are happening around the world around global climate change.
So there's a number I think people talk about 2 degrees Celsius. It doesn't seem like a lot, but 2 degrees Celsius, will be on fire, if that happens. And I think disadvantaged communities, and this is something that we're talking more about, climate justice and things like this. They tend to put the coal-fired power plants in the bad neighborhoods. Those people get more, cancer, bad things, right? And now we can measure these things and see the difference. I think I'm about solutions, right? So I think that there's a lot of people out there with solutions. We just came back from a conference in Houston, actually, last week, with it was about African Americans in energy, and it was just wonderful to see so many people of color that were intent on doing things in the Black community as we go through this transition, not to leave them out, not to make them a part of the solution, so they could have equity and wealth out of this, if that is the case, and also clean energy, right? So what we do is We Solar CSP. We could do a lot of things, right? So this is the beauty of the tech. The tech does more than electricity. I talk about this all the time. If you think about a pie and you cut it into quarters, 25% of that pie is the electricity pollution. So the coal, the oil, the gas, and sometimes transportation and other things. That's 25% of the problem. 75% of the problem is everything else, right? Agriculture, making glass, making steel, making aluminum, all these things, concrete, these things, I was just in Houston and Seattle, and I see all the concrete, and it's like, it produces so much. I think it's about 8 to 10% of all the pollution around the world. So we have to make it in a clean way, because it's not that people are still going to build, they're still going to make steel and cars and things. So I think the beauty of our technology is that we focus on the harder to abate sections of the economy and to decarbonize those things. So how do you do that? We have a tech, it's called ASC, and it actually gets to very high temperatures. How do we do that? We concentrate the light of the sun. Unlike other CSP technologies that they focus the light up to a power tower or through a parabolic trough or linear Fresnel, all these technologies tend to focus the light up. We focus the light down. You may want to call it beam down, but we focus the light into a focal point, a fixed focal point. That makes it unique, that makes it disruptive, and we can keep the cost down, and we can get up to 1,000, 1,500 Celsius. And when you get to those heat temperatures, you can now do a lot of things. If you think about other companies in our country, in America, you've got the big ones like Procter & Gamble, you got Colgate, Kimberly Mill, you got all these big industrial companies, Honeywell, Mars, they all make things, right? And how do they make them? Heat, right? They have a blast furnace, and They're burning, they're melting chocolates, they're roasting peanuts, they're doing all kinds of stuff to make, whatever. It could be plastic or whatever, but they're burning something, and it's usually gas or oil. And that lets out a lot of sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides into the atmosphere. And that's part of the problem, right? So how do you do that in a clean way with a zero carbon footprint? And you can do that by concentrating the light of the sun, heating up a transfer fluid. It could be many different things, right? Depends on the temperature you want to get to. It could be rocks, basalt, ceramics, molten salt. There's many different things, and they hold the heat. They hold it for a long time. And then when the nighttime comes, when the sun comes down, that's when everyone needs electricity. That's when it's called the load of the grid. Just and then everyone flips on, and then you need peaker plants, nuclear or gas-fired power plants. They turn on to capture that demand, that load demand. And then when the sun, basically in the middle of the night, there's not that much demand. So that peaker moment is being today looked at as a problem, and that's called the intermittency of renewables, pretty much solar and wind. Right, when the wind's not blowing and when the sun's not shining, this is a big chasm that has to be filled. And how are we filling that? Today in America, they're doing it with batteries, battery storage. This is the stuff that you see. Elon Musk has the Teslas. They have great batteries. I think those batteries are genius, and they should get a Nobel Peace Prize, the battery, right? And, our cell phones, you can see it, and then my watch, they all have lithium-ion batteries in it. And my problem with that is that so getting back to the tech, right? We cover that peaker moment, right? And in America, we have batteries. We can talk about that later in this interview, but we do it through thermal heat, and we heat up a transfer fluid. We can push that out at night. That creates steam. We heat up water, it creates steam. That turns a turbine that looks like an aircraft engine backwards. That produces kinetic DC electricity. They get stepped down through transformers and inverters and gets pushed into 110 power lines. That gets stepped down again through transformers and pushed into your home as 110 volts electricity. That's how we get electricity today. But that peaker moment, when we have to turn on those peaker plants, it gets very expensive. Very expensive. And batteries are expensive. I won't give you a number because I don't want to start messing with that, but they're expensive, and we can do it a lot cheaper with thermal energy storage. And there's a lot of interest in the federal government to explore federal thermal energy storage, as they see countries like China, Israel, Spain, the Middle East, North Africa, they're all using thermal energy storage, and they're doing a really good job with it. So we are using batteries in America, but that's starting to change. And the concept here is very, very important. We're not going to get to 2% if we don't figure out energy storage, right? We just can't do it because the sun doesn't shine all the time, right? So that's called long duration energy storage. And there's some great projects out there. And one of the solutions is hydrogen, green hydrogen. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the interview.
This is wonderful insight around what's actually happening and how it impacts the day-to-day lives of individuals, across, not only across the United States, across the globe. And these conversations are important. And I know in your role as CEO of WeSolar CSP, I'm sure that you've probably encountered some challenges and barriers to really bringing your technology forward and putting it, engaging the market in various ways. Can you share with us your experience and challenges or barriers that have impacted you being able to scale it to the degree that you would like?
So unless you start with a ton of money, I think most startups need to raise capital. And I think the biggest thing is to have the right team, right? If you have a good team, then you can do anything, right? Smart people, women, men, who are passionate and really believe in the leader and the process and the product and the mission, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is the biggest challenge after that would be money. So with the first challenge, it's definitely the team, but you also have to make sure your timing is right. Like, what are you doing? What does your company do? And does it produce something where there's a demand, a huge demand for this, right? And it hasn't been solved yet. So those are like disruptive, check the box type of stuff. I would say money is a big one. And I can tell you, I just got back from Seattle, from a conference out there. We were in a room with a bunch of energy leaders, from every single sector, every company, utilities, everything. I mean, billions of dollars in just this one conference, and they're looking for clean energy providers. So call it ESG, call it whatever you want, right? It's not red or blue, guys. It's not political. It's just, everyone's got kids, right? Everyone's got grandkids, right? We want to breathe clean air so they can enjoy the nature that we've enjoyed, right? So I think people are waking up to know that, burning dinosaurs is not the way to go. I mean, we live a nice life with we have a first, generational sort of lifestyle, but it's at a cost. And if you look at the rest of the world, right, look at Africa, look at India, look at some parts of China and, places like that in Southeast Asia, they don't even have electricity for the whole day. It drops off. So what we have to do is make this ubiquitous, and they want to burn coal, right? So that's what they want to do. They want to burn coal because it's under their feet. They're swimming in it. But what we have to do is be able to come up with a solution that's cheap, affordable, that can do more than just electricity, right? So we do water desalination. So we can take brine, brackish, salt water, and clean it through distillation so people can drink, because that's the next pandemic. It's going to be water, clean drinking water. And then the industry. So this is about business. It's about money, right? There's a lot of money out there, companies who make things, and they don't want to lose their, every month, every quarter, they have to report their numbers. So I think the industrial process heat, so they can make their products in a clean way and hit scope 1, scope 2, even scope 3 of the UN mandates, gives these companies incentive, and then they're being invested in, and their boards are looking at the CEOs and saying, hey, you need to do a better job. So there's a real transition going on, and I feel very humbled and very, very blessed to be a part of this. And the conversations, like I said, I was talking to the Department of State last week and Department of Commerce. We're going out to Dubai. We have a demonstration plant in Abu Dhabi that we are going to, COP28 will be in Dubai in November. So there's a lot of discussions with the US government and the UAE government. So I'll be a part of those discussions on the US side. It's crazy. So I'm a minority-owned company. So this is going to the HBCUs, look at me. I'm like you. I started out with, my parents didn't have a lot of money. So I just had to work hard. Don't get that twisted. You have to work hard. And don't be scared to work, but just be a ferocious reader and really be curious. And, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, just, and get up and keep on going.
So let me ask you a question that should hopefully be helpful to our audience. Your technology, basically, it doesn't replace energy coming off the grid, but it would supplement or create some additional energy sources that would take their reliance on the grid, or at least reduce their reliance on the grid. Is that an accurate assessment?
So for electricity, so like I described how coal-fired power plants, gas-fired power plants, And what they do, so people who don't know about this, a coal-fired power plant goes to a coal mine. It digs down a couple thousand feet, takes the coal, puts it on a train. Train gets to the power station, and they incinerate it, they burn it, and they get heat. That heat creates, well, there's water, and they heat up the water. That's the whole purpose of burning coal, oil, and gas, to heat up water to create steam. It's done in a closed loop. That steam then pushes the turbine. So the answer to your question is, for electricity, we can replace if you look at China, they're doing the same thing. They're replacing, so you can have a 300 megawatt power plant that produces clean energy. There's a huge plant in Chile, 100 megawatts, and it works. It has storage 24 hours a day. So you don't even have to go to the grid. Now, it's going to take a long time, right? There's a lot of interest involved in keeping oil and gas and coal around. And honestly, we're going to still need some fossil fuels. Some percentage going forward will be fossil fuels, because plastics and everything and laptops, they're all made out of oil and things like this, right? So it's never going to go away. At least I don't think to zero. It'll go very close to zero, but maybe not zero. And then you've got other industries, like let's make paper towels or toilet paper or whatever, toothpaste, all this stuff, right, is made through heat, right? So in those cases, I look at it as a hybridized solution, what we do. So they burn gas, and then what we can come in, at least in the early stages, is to co-locate and push our steam, our clean steam, because we're getting it from the sun, it's no hydrocarbons, and their dirty steam that they get from burning fossil fuels, and then we hybridize into the turbine, all right? And effectively what that does, it reduces the amount of coal, oil, or gas that they're burning, say 30 to 35% less. So that's a very affordable way to decarbonize the environment. So, what they talk about today is things like sequestration, CCS, so carbon sequestration. So when a coal-fired or gas or any carbon-producing power plant produces electricity, they capture the carbon. This is a very complicated process. They capture it, and then they pump it into the ground to frack with. We're talking about billions of dollars, and we're fracking with it. So it's a way for industry, big industry, oil, and to stay in the game. I think the other one is hydrogen. I've been talking about hydrogen for years, but I think that it's now caught on. There's hydrogen hubs in the US. It's a clean gas. If you think about hydrogen, it's the smallest element on the periodic chart. It's tiny. It's a gas. You can burn it. It produces nothing. It doesn't have the bad stuff. But it's very difficult to make. Very difficult. So hydrogen is a big deal. A lot of companies are looking at green hydrogen, which is made. So there's something called an electrolyzer. And what it does, it goes into water, and it basically goes in, it has a cathode and anode, and it separates through films, it separates the oxygen from the hydrogen. These electrolyzers are bloody expensive, right? So what they do for green hydrogen, you can basically use the wind and solar and batteries, and you can make electricity to power the electrolyzer. That's called green hydrogen, and you siphon off the hydrogen. There's white hydrogen, which is under the ground. There's brown and gray hydrogen, which is made through the way it's made today. Like they burn oil and gas to make electricity, and then that electricity powers the electrolyzer. So that's called brown or gray hydrogen. There's blue hydrogen, where you make it, and then you capture the sequestration. You capture the carbon dioxide. There's even turquoise, which I think is what we do, turquoise hydrogen, where we use heat, and the term is called thermolysis, right? We use heat, we get to very, very high temperatures. And when you get to these really high temperatures, you can actually break the bond between the molecule of hydrogen and oxygen, and you siphon off the hydrogen. That's also a more affordable way. And so there's like a whole Crayola box of colors for hydrogen. There's a lot of, for instance, I've said this before, but there's a plot of land in Saudi Arabia the size of Belgium, and they've set that aside to make green hydrogen. Now, this is Saudi Arabia, the largest producer of oil, some of the biggest companies in the world. And they've said, okay, what does that say? It says we believe that hydrogen is going to be the future, not oil, right?
Absolutely.
This is these are the Middle East guys.
So that leads me to two questions. So the first question is, in theory, an organization, a institution, say a college or university or a hospital could establish your technology and really become self-sufficient within their own. They could create their own energy ecosystem. And then the second question, follow up to that, in this new space, it also has workforce implications around new types of occupations and opportunities for the workforce.
Well, the first question is your first question. I'm going to answer it A, B, right? So yes, a lot of universities, a lot of government, Army, Navy, they all need heat, right? And they burn a gas to create heat, and then they pump that heat throughout the buildings. District heating is what it's called. So yeah, we can create heat without burning, a gas or oil or something. So that we've actually explored that with NREL, one of the national labs, there's 17 national labs in America. So we're talking very heavily to NREL about some of the funding opportunities that the US government, Department of Energy, has put out there, millions of dollars to do district heating. All right, that's the first part. The second part of that is we've actually signed an LOI with a university, a pretty big one, to do more research on this topic of, thermal, CST, concentrated solar thermal, right? And, if you think about it, 15 years ago, thermal was coming in and then it didn't do well. It was very expensive. Levelized cost of electricity was high. And then the cost went down. So that's the first thing, right? So the second part of the answer to the first question, well, that was the second part. We've done research. We're doing research with universities. There's a couple, I won't mention their names, but I would love to do more research and bring in engineers and bring in some people from the HBCUs to kind of, this is real. This is we're talking trillions of dollars here, right? Future job security and having the right skills. Like everything with AI, machine learning, predictive analytics, and machines can do everything now. You can't look at the same jobs. The skill sets are totally different. People are going to be, out of jobs. They're not going to be a YouTuber. But if you really want the right skills, you need to look at where the jobs are. And it's in tech. There's a lot in tech. And there's a lot in healthcare, but there's a lot in clean energy as well. And I think what we do specifically, there's jobs in solar panel installation, being a developer of solar projects. There's tons of projects out there. These are really good jobs. And then for us, there's research, like people that have materials science engineering that really understand this, because there's heat transfer fluids that we have to have things that hold those heat. So that's material science and stuff like that, which I think is, I've met some folks. We're based in Princeton, and so there's a lot of smart people there. There's the Andlinger Energy Center. The Rutgers University has Rutgers Energy Institute. Obviously, I'm from New Jersey, so those are the ones. But HBCUs, I'm 100% there. I'll go anywhere, and I'm willing. And there's money out there. We can bring in interns and things like this to work and really get exposed to this, because we're trying to share this and not keep it to ourselves. And then the second part to that question, first part was, you said something about workforce, right?
Yes.
I think I think the workforce, I think that if you're a university student, and I was just watching a podcast the other day with Stanford University Graduate School, and the smartest people, the smartest students, they're all doing this. They're not doing finance. They're going into environmental science, clean tech, sustainability. That's where the money is. There's a ton of money. I mean, people will think, oh yeah, be a trader on Wall Street. No. That's what I did. That's what I majored in. But no, sustainability will give people a really good life. And not only that, you'll be able to give back, especially if you're of color and you want to do something good to help your people, your parents, your grandkids, your grandparents, all that stuff. You can come back and build in your own community and get it, to where it should be and clean it up. So I think this is a great place to be. I wouldn't want to do anything else.
How could someone that's interested in learning more about We Solar CSP find you? Where would you suggest that they go to learn more about your company and the work that you're doing?
So thank you again, Glenn, for your time. And I know this has been a great interview. I really like working with you and speaking with you about many things that's going on in energy and in New Jersey. So the website is www.wesolarcsp.com. And my email address is steve@wesolarcsp.com. And, if you want to call me or reach me, 732-579-7014. I'll try to reach back to you. I'm also on LinkedIn. All right. So if you look up Steve, Steve Anglin, Anglin, I'm on LinkedIn, right? So that's the best way to reach me. And, we can talk that way. We can communicate via LinkedIn. And then we can talk about, whether it be working with my company or other companies, or just if you want to learn more about this industry, this area. I'm very, very happy to spend the time. There's a lot of people in universities. Right now we have 2 Princeton University students on our team, but I would love to get more, HBCU students, and whatever I can do to do that. I'm very open to that.
Thank you so much. This has been a wealth of information in this space. I look forward to hearing more about We Solar CSP in the coming months, not the coming years, in the coming months, in terms of the great success that I foresee for you, and knowing that there is a Black-owned company in this space, when for many years there were none. It's very encouraging, and I hope inspiring to our viewers. Thank you again for joining us as part of this Black Excellence Alliance Black Entrepreneur Pioneer Series. You are truly a pioneer, Steve, and we appreciate you taking time to be with us today. And thank you all to everyone who tuned in for our series, and we look forward to seeing you for our next event.